All right, Trev. So, we've talked about your dad. If you knew your dad was so evil, why did you keep acting out as a child when you were growing up?
What makes you think I was acting out?
I mean, well, you said it. Hey, I was out. Yeah,
No. He felt disrespected. Acting out is a bad kid. I was never an acting out. My mom wouldn't tell you I acted out. No, he wouldn't tell you I acted out. He just had high levels in terms of expectations due to the fact prison's a different environment. Everything's disrespect. If you step on somebody's shirt, that's disrespect. If you do, he got conditioned in a different, very unique way due to that lifestyle in terms of prison. But acting out, they called home once, not twice. Acting out would be in the presumption.
Talk about the disrespect though too, because I know at times you back talk to others. When you were a child, I've heard the stories where you told someone to shut up.
Yeah, very much so.
And all those things. So talk about that.
That wasn't back talking. That was me being clear. She didn't say nothing to tell me to shut up. I just didn't want her to talk to me.
Yeah.
So, look, guys, he's working on getting better at the questions, but he's not. Well, he's used to off camera. Technically, be bigger. Nobody's used to it. My ability to respond. The average person needs let me think about it. Like, no, that wasn't the case. No, that wasn't the case. So I'm looking for the right question. Keep asking, man. This is good. Good practice for you.
So what was your dad's issue to, you just even having friends as well, too?
My dad's issue was that he didn't trust anybody growing up when he was raped by his own cousin. So if you can't trust your own cousin, your own family, he has severe, and then he went to prison, like straight up. Went to prison. Who can you trust in prison? So now anytime there's an issue or a friend thing, he's running scenarios in his head where the risk becomes too high for the reward. And if you fall victim in the area I was in, even now, to the crowd or to the noise, you start making bad choices. And one bad choice, as we talked about in another video, can lead to a vicious cycle of bad choices. And it's very hard to dig yourself out of a hole you technically didn't put yourself in, hence the saying, I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. No, you was at the wrong, it could be true, but you were just with the wrong people. So, keep asking, man.
It's so funny. This goes back to sometimes I get confused when you talk about the whole storytelling thing, but you give me direct responses. So I'm like, okay, what was the story behind
Because
that?
These aren't questions that are open-ended. You're asking me direct questions, not giving scenarios or setting me up or the viewers up for success. Now, guys, let me be very clear. Asking questions is a very complicated thing, especially when you're listening for keywords or things that you can help someone elaborate on. But let me give Jamarcus perspective. Had he asked me questions before this even and tried to find the best way to ask questions to ensure we was able to tell a story, then this would be a lot easier on him. But you can't make it easy on people who are supposed to be great or even be better for that matter. So ask me the first question again. I'll tell you how I would ask the question and I'll give you the right answer.
If you knew your dad was so evil, why continue to act out?
So as a kid, you never know that your dad's evil. And the right question is, hey, what's the most harmful thing? I would say, hey, is your dad beating you with a water hose the worst thing he's ever done? I go, ooh, that's tough. I think the worst thing he ever did was abandon me. I think the worst thing he ever did was make a choice for himself. I think the worst thing he ever did was not become the man I would want to be today. I think the worst thing he ever did was not get the love and care that he needed from his mother or father, which then didn't teach him how to love and care for a family. I think the worst thing he ever did, simply put, was not enough.
So what was the best thing he did for you then?
Consistently on my ass. Consistently make sure I was never helpless. Consistently making sure that I read, that I could write, that I could apply, that I could communicate. Consistently made sure I turned into an individual. Consistently making sure I never became a part of the crowd. Consistently making sure that I spoke up. Consistently teaching me how to be a man. Consistently teaching me how to be respected. Consistently giving me my own ideas, making sure that I could think for myself and allow no thoughts to seep in of confusion. And let me be consistent, make sure I was never confused. That confusion thing, they say the devil's the author of confusion, right? That's one of the sayings, if it might be in the Bible. It's the author of confusion. When you get to a confused state, a lot of times you go over here, these people make me happy for this minute. This made me happy for this minute. I'm not confused about who I am and who I'm not supposed to be. I'm confused. I'm very certain about who I am and who I'm not, what I will and won't do, what I am and what I'm not interested in. But what Jamarcus did in terms of questioning, the line of questioning is he wants to know why I did leave if I knew my dad was so evil. So the presumption is that he thinks my dad's evil, but I never said he was evil.
You said that.
No.
I've heard you literally verbatim say, "Yo, my dad was evil."
To his, not to me, but to his siblings, to my Uncle Thomas, to Uncle Rodney, to getting beat up, to putting one of the sons next to a fence. He's evil to my mother. He was evil to a lot of women. He's evil to them. But I sat down and I said, my dad always told me the truth. He's like Thanos. So I have to respect that the man gave me perspective, and he did the best he knew how with what he cared about. He was evil to my grandmother, but I cannot say he was evil. The things he might have done were evil, but he was evil because he would deliberately go out of his way to cause harm to people, manipulate. He used the word circumvent. I learned circumvent from my father, but to outright call him evil, to me, no, because even when I parted ways, when we had that last conversation, it wasn't me be like, oh man, my dad's gonna be evil. It's like, he's never gonna be a better man. And I'd rather not go there. So if I was giving Jamarcus context on how to ask the questions, again, I'd start with, because you got to lead, right? Hence, leading questions. Hey, what's such and such the worst thing your dad ever did to you? Tie you up, beat you with the water hose? No, that isn't. I just walked you through everything that he did and he could have done better and done more of. And even simply becoming the best he can be, because who doesn't want to admire their father? Who doesn't want to look up to their kinfolk, their blood? My dad's brilliant. Truth is, he's smart, but he just can't get right, can't act right. And by the time he probably is going to act right, I mean, our relationship's gone, but his life will be over. But who knows? Maybe he's doing super well today and I'll never know. Something happened?
No, you're good.
Okay. So the next question I would ask, as I'm, again, walking Jamarcus, is this: once I tell you, okay, these are the things that he failed in, you would then say, because we're trying to get to the evil thing, right? Well, who do you think he hurt the most on his journey? Ooh. I watched my grandmother cry every time we left the prison. And it is her belief that my father killed his dad due to stress, cancer, etc. But he died from a Weldon cancer, and technically he died from a heart attack. But I watched her cry because they really did want the best for my dad. And they too had no clue how to be good parents, great parents, or parents who could pour into a child, especially one who was active as he was. He was mentally active. So what happens is you have a kid who needs tons of stimulation. She brings in 7 foster kids, and he has an older brother who's a half brother, Uncle Ira. And my dad, he needed more care, more love, consistency. He didn't need them to just keep saying, well, you know, God's gonna figure everything out, work everything out. No, he was a child who needed safety. The first time he felt abandoned is when he told my grandmother and grandpa that he was raped by his cousin. And then my grandmother straight up said, which I thought my papa was super strong, he could never send a letter to or even say anything to his own sister. He could never. What do you think a boy does when he can't trust his parents to protect him? So he loses sight of his sense of self and safety when he's a child, which then for the rest of his life, he's no longer safe. And his way of safety comes from fear. And now his fear of you ever being victim of certain things that he may have come a victim to is why he's got such a deft hand on your ass.
Why did he feel safe to not be able to go talk to his parents?
No, he talked to them. They didn't do anything.
Oh, okay.
That's the point. He talked to him about it and said, hey, they thought, my grandmother straight up said, we thought that he was just acting out. He literally could not stand being left with his cousin, lock him in the closet and be literally raping my dad. An older boy raping a boy. And that dude later died, from my understanding, from HIV. Whole nother twist. See what I'm saying? So you learn pain, and what they say, pain begets pain, or hurt people. And the only way he could protect me in his mind was to hurt me and put enough fear in me that I would never do anything to put me in predicaments and situations he ever became a victim of. One, going to prison. He's like, I don't ever want you to look at a prison. And this is how it might go in there. So you get beat like a prison. You're like, I don't know, that's a good idea. But it happens. So then the next question leading into the evil thing, how did you not become so evil or so hateful? How would you categorize the things that he did do, and how were you able to see the positive and all that darkness that you continually saw? These are things that help frame to get to, again, 5 down. And then the question is not, how was your dad? So he was like, hey, so would you say that your dad was an evil person? And I say, no, I don't think he was evil. I think he did what he thought was right at that moment in time. And he knew better, but didn't have a clue how to do better. But keep going, man.
Working on that one, that was a good way to finish right there.
That ain't good. That is not good. There's steps that are being missed. And again, post this whole thing because there's a lot of clips in here that you could share. But if the premise of this was to figure out, what was the premise of this particular topic that you wanted to
understand your childhood, your upbringing.
Okay, what were the key words that you wanted to focus on?
I mean, how these experiences shaped you, who you are today, you know.
Okay, and so experiences, but what are the key words? Because you're coming off of me talking about a beating. What were the key words that you wanted to leave them with and attach to this particular video?
How did you growing up the way you did impact the way you show up for others today?
Okay, so what I learned as a kid, based on the experiences that I had, unfortunately, was that nobody cared. And I cared and cared and cared. I even have a clip of my mother saying, what they don't know is you tried. I tried to push and I don't want to say force, but make a relationship with my father that just was never going, we never going to be there. This is a guy I look up to most. When I was a kid, he was the best person I knew despite the turmoil and literally being assaulted and beaten and bruised, or whatever the case may be. So what I saw was more pain than I saw progress. I saw more hurt than I saw healing. I saw more disaster than I saw relief. I saw more strife than I saw success. And I saw very few pleasure and not too many happy moments. Were there happy times in an instance? And that was about as far as you could get. So you're looking at these things. And mind you, I grew up and I heard a lot of people too, make sure you understand, I am not remiss from being a perfect individual, let alone even good. I don't even think I'm a good person. But I know what it's like because I watched it as a kid for somebody to go out their way to hurt everybody, to lie to everybody, to literally insert you in the lie so you could keep getting away with whatever you're doing. You go, well, that's not the way to live. And I remember not the first time, but time where I just didn't care no more. It's a true story. My dad had asked me to talk to some chick. It was a girl, so he's talking to some woman. He has this girl, so the girl's sister, she's in confusion. And then she's like, Trev, girl thinks she's gay and she's not sure. So I was like, okay, she can talk to my son. Like, so now I'm getting pimped out. and I get the number from my dad. And so there used to be this spot off of 119th and Strang Line in Olathe. And one night, I was getting off work, old girls like, yo, we can go up to this little, like 18-year-old club. You can go out there. And I go hang out with them. So what do women do? Women like hens. Her sister's like, man, was hanging out with your son, boom, boom, boom. My dad calls. Hey, was you at so-and-so? I said, yep. And then he mad that I was there. He's like, man, don't let no women come between your father. And I was like, bruh, didn't you tell me to talk to this girl? How you think talking goes? You got to actually have a conversation and hang out with her. You said she confused. I need to help with the confusion by making sure that I don't know what he was doing or what's going on to this day. But I just remember telling him the truth in that minute, that instance. And at that moment, I realized, I was like, I ain't never lying to this dude again. I'm good on that lying stuff because he had used me to lie to get into so many homes. And I won't tell all the lies that he had me tell. But just know this. Some of the nights for the women that my dad was messing with back in the day, you ever wondered, hey, wonder where he was at tonight. He was somewhere he shouldn't be. And I was there with him. And we had to lie to get back in the house, to your house, to be clear, whoever's watching. If you ever thought he was lying about where he was lying. And that is the truth. And I had to help him lie. And the leveraging tool was I'm with him. Oh, Trev got to get up and go to school in the morning. Every time I got back to women's house that we were staying with at 3 a.m, 7th grade, then had to get up and go right to school. So when you ask the question, how do you not let what happened to you become you? It's very simple. In this case, my dad said all women like to be lied to and used. So never tell them the truth. And always do. What did he say? He said, never tell a girl you love her and all women like to be used. I was like, he told me this at 13. I'm never gonna forget this. I said, this Negro's crazy. And I didn't even know what nothing was at the time. What I do know is is that you can tell them the truth and they still don't care. So I find more peace in just being like, hey, we just, yep. Yep. Because at the end of the day, people gonna make choices regardless. They like, when somebody wants something, there's nothing you can do to stop them, point blank. So all the lies he told, they'd have just let him back in if they knew he was going to go deal with some other shit. Some of them have been self-righteous and the other ones have been like, yo, I'm just happy you're back home. I'm just happy you're here. Did you have a good time? Because now this shows sister wives and everything else. That's the truth. So I'm like, I learned and have found more peace in just being like, hey, yep. It's all about values. So he shaped me from his choices to become someone that doesn't want to practice looking over my shoulder. So we started lying to folks. You gotta watch everything you do. I barely sleep, but I do sleep better than I knowing ain't nobody coming to get me now. Not for no dumbass lying shit. What else you got, man?
What was the best lesson that he's taught you then, amongst all of that? Because, that's a lot to unpack to begin with.
Simply put, my dad said, make sure, the irony is, I've said this before, he said, make sure you're okay with looking in the mirror. There was a time where I had a few girls around and he was like, Trev, man, what you doing? I'm like, that's confusing. What were you doing? and he just like, man, make sure, and he knew them all. He's like, make sure they all knew about each other. So he's like, make sure you can look yourself in the mirror at night. And I'm like, yeah. And he just went on to say, hey, you got to be okay with that person or, and how it impacts others or so many things, right? And for one, through his actions, he taught me how not to be. Through his actions, he taught me who to be. It took a while to rid myself of both the anger, rage, and getting the short end of the stick is what you could call it. You feel like, man, I didn't get a loving, caring upbringing, and I just want my father to care, and he never would. But he taught me how to practice, at least, being better in instances that he could not be better because he was always trying to get over on somebody or get away with something, to say the least.
I ain't got nothing.